Now, what we have is the Excel that Esther has provided. So in the Excel, as you saw, there are some the dashboard inputs. There are some corporate assumptions, prices discount, based on prices scenarios, and so on. But we know that those prices scenarios, pretty much, we took it out already. So now we don't have to depend on the prices scenarios that are in Excel. We can use the price scenarios that are in the web server. The same, this is the prices for oil, and I believe these are the prices for the gas. In terms of other considerations, we'd like to, I'm not going to talk too much about taxes. All the information that I'm going to put there is pretty much pre-taxes. Okay. So let's start with some of the considerations, and I will take first some of the corporate assumptions. So the corporate assumptions that we have here, let's see what we have. We have the oil discount price. We have a condensate discount price at some point as well. And we have also the corporate assumption of exchange rate assumption. Hold on a second, I think I have some comments in the chat. Okay. So we have the corporate assumptions, and we have the cost escalation and index. So let's put all these, because these are very, let's say, these are scalar values. I want to be able to modify those in the future as it's suitable. So I'm going to call this corporate assumptions config, and this is a dictionary. What I'm going to define here is a dictionary in Python, and I'm going to copy this bit of code because I don't want to. What I'm setting up is exactly what you saw in the Excel. We have exchange rate, we have a discount price for oil, condensate, NGL discount price, and so on. So let's see other configurations. There are some other configurations that I have that Esther has taken into account that for the time I'm going to skip, but there are some factors associated to the crude, the product itself, like the gas oil equivalent conversion, condensate oil equivalent conversion factor, and so on, and gas calorific value. And I think that for this exercise, we are not going to use it. I'm going to make it a bit more simple, and I'm not going to set it up. But the other thing that we need to do, if we go to the cash flow model, in the cash flow model, we have a few things. We have a general reference year. We have a general inflation. And we also have a start date of production and end date of production. Okay. And I believe there is when the discount year start, which is I guess the reference year. And there is a nominal, what's up? I think there is a nominal discount factor at some point. Okay. So let's take some of those cash flow configurations. And there we go. We have these few configurations that we can edit, we can modify, we can do some stuff with those configurations. Now, what I'm going to do some other edits, and this is in the corporate assumptions. So let's define some functions. I'm going to define my function called corporate assumptions, and I'm going to bring in the corporate assumptions what we do. It's apply the discount factors from the configuration that we have at the top. Yeah. You just make sure. We apply some discount factors that ultimately will be used in the economic model. So if I start to add, so first of all, I have a price, the DF that we are going to bring from the server, which is the Excel, or let's say the data frame with the prices that we want to evaluate, and we have this configuration file. So this is a bit of a function so that we can reuse. So if we change the configuration file, or we have different versions of the configuration file, let's say we want to change the inflation rate, or we want to run without inflation, we can redefine a new configuration file and then pass this through this function to make it very quickly. So what I say, it's we're going to have in the price, we're going to have a price of oil, which is going to be equal to the price. This is price of oil, sorry. I'm actually inside the function, I'm going to make a copy of this original file. I'm going to use the price of oil. And what we have seen is that we need to discount the oil discount price. Yes. So we know that the oil discount price, it's minus 0.4, and it's on the corporate assumptions configuration, which we're going to use here in the config. So we can access the config. And this is oil discount price. And as well, we are going to divide this by the exchange rate to bring it to dollars. So again, in the config, we have this exchange rate. We have this exchange rate. Now, as I mentioned, we have done all this bit of getting the information from the API. And what I'm going to do to make things a bit easier, it's I have prepared already a sort of economic file, or sorry, the API in an external file. Okay, so if I show you this API, it's just the functions that I was showing you before, but this will make my life easier to bring information into the file. And so if I want to run, for instance, this model, what this model return, it's a modified data frame with a new price. Okay? Now, let's import the API information. And actually, apart from the API, we're going to be importing some additional information, which in this case, it's the same bit, pandas, the data frame, and so on. Okay. Now, if I go to the API and I want to get, but let's see, find the scenario that we want to bring first. So I want to bring the price Brent high with the forecast base case with the CAPEX A, OPEX A, and a scenario A. So I have already written a bit of a small function. This small function brings that data, all that data. Into Python. So if I write here, for instance, price, and let's store it here in a data frame called price. What we have is a price. Exactly, this is exactly what we're doing in the understanding API, but now we have it more succinct here. Yeah, and now I can run my corporate assumption, give a price, give a configuration, and return the modified price assumptions. So I can run this file, corporate assumptions. Let's get the modified price, and the configuration I can give cash flow configuration. Sorry, this is the corporate assumptions configuration.
Maybe some spelling in the assumption.
Oh, it's the other way around. Sorry. Yeah. I believe this is oil. Oil. Okay. Now, if I see, actually, I should have called this price, and this is original, and this is a modified price. So if you see the modified price, obviously I have applied the factor this equation to I have modified the oil price. So what I'm trying to say here, it's I'm pretty much taking every step that was configured in the economic model. I can quickly configure it here. So there are further assumptions that I'm going to just copy and paste here for the price evaluation. Just a second. Let me bring those assumptions. Right. So these are the other, let's say, the other operations that we have executed. So we have a condensate that it's equal to the oil. Actually, we can call this oil in capital. We have the NGL as well, which is coming from the oil price. We have the gas price that also has a gas price discount. So these are all the assumptions, and I can run again all the model to all those assumptions. And now I have the new oil, the gas, and actually let me just use the same convention. Otherwise, we're going to have many more columns. You can see here that the gas it's a slightly changing or has a slightly changed by the operation, and the oil also it's slightly lower after the discounts and after the exchange rate. Yeah, so let me run this again. Okay, now we have this. Now the nice thing about this is that I can come back here, change very quickly my corporate assumption, come up with a different corporate assumption, or I can do some other interesting things like, and this is where it gets a bit interesting. Let's say I want to change some of my, I want to change run a couple or 3 scenarios on the price, and now I want to have exchange rates because I know Brexit is coming, COVID is evolving. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So let's try a few scenarios, some catastrophic scenario, some sort of okayish scenario, and some sort of exciting news scenario. And what I'm going to do is loop across those scenarios for rates in exchange rates. And I'm going to change my corporate assumptions. And I'm going to run the same. The original prices will be exactly the same, but now I'm going to change the modified scenario. And just to visualize what's happening there, let's do a plot of, I don't know if we can do a bar plot. Let's see if that works, of the oil price and over time. And I think we can do a plot here. Let's see if this works. Oil discount price. Config oil discount price. Oh, I see what's happening. So let me run this. And I just want to change that value. So I want to overwrite my exchange rates. The rest of the values will be exactly the same. See what's happening there? Okay, so I have something there. Not magnific, but you can see how quickly I can come up with a few alternative scenarios. In fact, let me copy this plot configuration to make it a bit more clear. So we have the different price configurations, and you can, as I'm bringing different scenarios very quickly into Python, I'm creating scenarios as quick as possible within Python. I don't have to save those scenarios in Excel, but I can visualize very quickly what would be the effect of those scenarios. I have a few other functions here. I have inflation set up. So this is a bit of a small function to calculate inflation rate based on a year 0 and a given set of years. But where the magic really starts to happen, it's in this part. And this is where we start to work in the cash flow. So this is a heavy part of the configuration of the workflow, where probably once you do it the first time, it takes a bit of time, but as you start to work going forward, it's very easy to modify. So first of all, for the cash flow, which is this part of the Excel that Esther was showing here. As you can see in this Excel, what we're doing is pretty much changing the input case. Yes, so base plus workover plus WACC. We can change the forecast price and so on upfront. And we want to get some of the same functionalities in Python. And for that, I'm going to try to build some of these in here. So this exploration costs, all these prices, in theory, we have it already. And I'm going to show you why we have it, because we're using the API. And if I show you CapEx, let's check the CapEx. I can come with the scenario data that we got from the API, and we got the CapEx A. So it means that if I go into a scenario, into the scenario data, and I bring CapEx, I can see all my CapEx distribution here. Okay, I can see how much it's investment and so on. In fact, let's only see the header. Yeah, let's only see the header. So I pretty much have a possibility to change these scenarios as I go forward very quickly and run them, iterate through them very quickly. So what we're interested in is in these columns here, in the columns where we ultimately calculate the revenue, operating cash flow, and so on. So let's define again the cash flow. So for the cash flow, we need the price. We're going to need the products, or in this case, it's as Esther mentioned, we're talking about commodities, oil and gas, but it could be electricity. Some amount of gigawatts hours equivalent produced by a plant, for instance. So this can be tweaked very, very quickly to any particular economic scenario or economic evaluation. So we have a CapEx, we have the OpEx, we have an abandonment cost, and we have now we have the cash flow configuration. This is what we want to pass to a function. Let's call it config. It's a generic one. And what we would like to do is create a new table that would export all the results of the economic evaluation, all the cash flow evaluation that we see here in the Excel. We want to have that economic evaluation back in here. There are a few things that we need to do. I'm just going to, so for instance, the first one, it's I want to establish the year. The year column, and I'm going to get the year column from the CapEx data frame. As probably have a full, I can get it from the price as well. I can get, as long as I have a column that has a full profile of information, that will be enough. In fact, you can see here that I don't have a year column in the price, so I can even let's say add a price column here if I want to. I'm not going to go to the details of that bit, but now the other thing that I want to do is aggregate the total CapEx. Somehow I want to have a column that it's my total CapEx, and I want to have another column that it's my total OpEx. So there is a bit of fiddling here with what information you are bringing, because as you see here, there are a couple of columns that are just ID and dates, and the rest is actually the CapEx of the CapEx for exploration, G&A, development G&A, facilities, studies, and so on, contingencies, and so on. So I can just take some of the columns. I'm not going to take all of the columns because the first two columns are not relevant. So I can just skip a couple of columns from the CapEx, and I can then do a very quick operation with the CapEx, with the data frame, with the columns. And what I'm going to do is sum those columns. Okay. So actually, as I start to develop this, let's see what's happening in the output. So this returns this data frame. And for the time being, let's call this cash flow function to see what's happening on the I need to add a year. I need to add a year. Let me add a year, sorry. Let me add it in the modify. Let's add a year column. And what I'm going to do, it's just gonna get the date and just extract the year from this this value here. I believe this will be X year. Okay, let's see if that works. X year for X in date. Okay. Let's see if this works. Okay. Okay, there we go. We have a year. So if I see the price and modify price now, it should have a year here at the end. And in fact, just let me make sure that this is something that we can use as a number. Okay. So now we have a column of year, and I can use instead of using the capex, I'm going to use the price as a year factor. Okay, let's see if that works. Actually, let me put here head again. And we want to run this cash flow. We want to run with the data frame of a price. Product, I think we have a data frame for forecast. We have a capex, we have a opex, we have an abandonment, and the configuration, it's a cash flow configuration that we have here, which just to make clear that what we are doing here, I'm going to put the cash flow configurations here. And probably do a bit of iteration with the cash flow as well. So this will return my data frame for the cash flow, hopefully, if that works. The forecast does not exist. I'm not quite sure what's the name there. In the API, should be called forecast. Forecast. Oh, I see. So this is a data that is this is a scenario data that we gather. So we have a price, the modified price, but I can get as I got the price, I need to get the capex. I need to get the capex. I need to get the forecast. Actually, the other way around. Price EF. The price is this modified price. The F price. The F price modified. And So CapEx DF, from CapEx, DF forecast, from forecast, and abandonment, from abandonment. And I think you get it already. OPEX EF from OPEX. And the price is the only thing that we have modified, but we can do the modifications and sensitivities with the others. Config is the cash flow config. Okay, so what we have here is now we're going to start to build the cash flow. So we have a total CapEx there per year. And as I start to build my cash flow equation, let's say, for instance, if we do OPEX now, let's try to add OPEX, which will be probably exactly the same as this one, but I'm going to use the OPEX data frame. And this is called OPEX now. And this is on the OPEX data frame. So if I run this, let's run again at the bottom, see what we get. Now we get the OPEX accumulated. And I think that that should be similar what you get at some point in the Excel when, I don't know where the CapEx, here it is.
We have another input, Alejandro, in that file.
Yeah, so there is a bit of a problem because the database, at the moment, I haven't loaded all the latest costs from Esther, but these are some dummy values that I have in the database for the time being, or some from the previous evaluation, the initial one that we started to work on. But you can start to see how we're building on top of the cash flow, and we can start to build the model slowly. And let's say we can say what's the year zero. And we know that the year zero is actually coming from the cash flow config, actually to be 2020 in both sides. And I can come up with year zero config, and I can bring the, what's the name, reference year. Okay, and that's important because if I want to calculate my inflation rate or my inflation factor, that I'm going to use to multiply all the cost by this inflation factor, which will be equivalent, I don't know where it is now, but at some point in the Excel, we also have an inflation factor that is calculated. I don't know where it is, Esther. I don't know where it is now, but somewhere here we have an inflation factor. I think these are sensitivities. So
next to the CapEx MOD, you have an inflation factor. You keep moving.
To the left, to the left?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see now, keep moving. Yes, the column R.
Oh yeah, so that's the escalation index that I'm calculating here. So thank you. So that inflation factor, and if you can see, it's pretty much building on top of every bit that is in that Excel. Yeah? So now we have inflation. We have an inflation calculation here, and we can do that calculation. Just gonna copy and paste here, just for the sake of time. And right, so we have an inflation factor there. And if let me add a couple of things. That now I'm going to add the modify. Is that what you call nominal? The nominal, once you multiply the inflation factor by the total OPEX, is that the nominal?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I do that and come back here to the bottom, now I have the inflation factor for that scenario. And again, it's very simple to just come back here to inflation, change your numbers, rerun your scenario and start to do some sensitivities. For the sake of time, I think I have shown you how I'm building slowly this economic model or this cash flow. What I'm going to show you, it's now what you can do one that economic model is ready. And let me show you the sort of answer that we will share later on. In this case, we have already the cash flow model already built completely up to the pre-tax. I haven't built the post-tax assumptions in this, or the fiscal regime assumption I haven't built on top of the model, but that's something that we could do. So if I run all this notebook again, that I think I need to do, what you have is, okay, let me show you. Oops, we have some issues here. Okay. Just running all this model again. And if we see now the cash flow, how it looks after building all the elements, and let's see only the first 5. We can see that now I have all those elements that are in the Excel built into the cash flow here. And very simple things that we can do here, and this is not exactly the same results that Esther is using, because this economic model, and we have to give you something that can work, and this is relying on some Excels, so that when we put it in GitHub, you can use it, because you don't have